Hi, James here from Sunseeker Southampton in Swanwick Marina, top of the Hamble River. Today we're going to run out on a Sunseeker Predator 57, which is one of our hardtop sports boats. This boat's just been sold through us, and we're just going out to check all the systems prior to her loading onto a ship and onwards transport down to south of France. So we just spin the camera around, see the boat here in front of us. It's Dan, one of our Sunseeker engineers. So he's coming out with us today just to check through all the main systems, stabilisation, running engines up to temperature, so having just carried out some work to make sure everything's all as we expect before she heads, say, 1,000 miles south on a ship out of Southampton, and she'll be off to her new home in the south of France. So spec'd up, this is one of the highest spec Predator 57s we've ever made. So delivered into the UK here 2016. She's got the Volvo D13 900 horsepower engine option, so the larger shaft engines. We'll just head on board here. See, we've got our grab bag here with a safety kit, life raft tucked under the back seat there, which we take out with us every time we go to sea. So we just fired the engines up, we're just letting them warm up at the moment. The boat's got Garmin Glass Bridge, which is basically these lovely big touchscreen display panels, which gives us our navigation, so we can flick through things here like engine gauges. We come across, we've got video camera systems, and if we go into the navigation, we've got things like our charts here. So Dan's just going to slip our lines. Yep, all good, Dan. We have a little bit of tide here in Swanwick when the river obviously comes in and goes out, so almost slack water at the moment, very little going on around us, and we've got, just looking up at flagpoles there, very little in the way of wind to worry about. Boat's loaded with gear to make this very straightforward for me here as the captain. So I've got my fly-by-wire throttle and gear controls here, and then down on the dash, that's a proportional bow and stern thruster control. So the more I push these over, the more power it will give me to move the bow and stern either from left to right or right to left. And then the further upgrade on this particular boat was a Zen to joystick, and we'll have a little play with that out at sea. Just combines all the functions together into one very easy to use control. So our engines are now ready to go, lines are off. We'll just ease her forward, everything's done at very slow speed. So what we do, once we're away from the dock, Dan will take our lines and fenders off, stow them ready for our trip out to sea. So say it's about half an hour running down the river till we get to open water. Same with everything done nice and slow. We got plenty of time to get ourselves set up. Boating obviously isn't always like this, so it's nice to know you've got the manoeuvrability when the weather changes. The thruster systems and the power you've got behind these big floor-bladed bronze props really make it easy to get the boat exactly where you want. So just manoeuvring in and out of gear with one engine. Now engage both, and you can see she's off and away, and we'll tick over around 5 knots on one of these without any tide, so sometimes a little bit faster or slower depending on whether we're going with or against the river current. And we just head off down the fairway here, looking out for any other boats that might be about to leave their berths, or obviously out in the river, anybody that might be heading off to another marina. So I say lots of minor engagements in and out of gear with the engines. So just showing you on the throttles here, so everything's just click in and out of gear. Makes it very very easy to keep control of the boat. And without the need for the steering here, if we just engage one engine ahead, one engine astern, we can actually bring the boat round almost on its own axis. They're very docile to drive, never really needing more than tick over. So say now we're down in the river here, we can get our ropes and fenders stowed, and we'll check back in when we're out at sea. It's nice Sunseeker 95 there, sat on the hammerhead pontoon. We'll have a look around that in another video. So we'll join you back shortly. So here we are back again, out on open water. We're just going to do a high-speed run, accelerating from a standstill. So two 900 horsepower engines, big turbos, a little bit of lag to get up on the plane. As soon as they boost up, you can see that speed climbing. Run around 30 knots flat out. So this was the largest horsepower shaft drive engines you could put on one of these. Just checking our temperatures and pressures. You'll have to excuse the frame rate on the camera showing the lines on the screens here, but everything looking good. We've got our stabilisers running at the moment. So these are a big 55cm Sleipner vector fin, so it's a curved fin, one either side of the hull. And that basically stabilizes our running and also anchor. It's a 0-speed system, so it just gives the ability, not so much on a day like today where we haven't got any discernible wash to worry about, but on a rougher day it's an absolutely fantastic system, and really something on a boat like this that is a very worthwhile addition to comfort on board. So for long distance passages, we've got things like an autopilot system here, so we can engage this now and it'll take a heading lock and hold us without having to steer the boat. We can adjust that through plus and minus degrees here on the screen. Just saves having to concentrate on a heading, and it will also talk to your GPS and chart plotter system here, so it'll follow a route from point A to B to C without needing to constantly make adjustments to your compass heading. Sitting flat out now, running against a little bit of tide as it's just turned against us, so we're running just around 29 knots. And looking across here, we can see our fuel burn. We're doing 330 litres an hour combined at the moment. We bring this back to a more acceptable cruise speed. Which I suggest is around there, 20 to 23 knots or something like this. So 21 knots we're now burning, much more acceptable, 200 litres an hour, 100 litres a side, gives us a range about 250 miles at that. So we've got great visibility out there. Big open array radar, which is overlaying on our plotter here. So the great thing with these Garmin glass bridge displays, of course, you can play around with detailed depth charts. See it just coming into view now, digital charts. We can do combinations if we want to run a chart and radar alongside each other. So it's very, very versatile kit, sunlight readable, very bright picture. But personally out here I like to run something like the full screen chart with a radar on top, and then we can just keep an eye on commercial shipping movements around us, and of course the addition of AIS as well, which gives us a ship identification system. From say a 21 knot speed and cruising up to a full chat, still got a lot of mid-range there, so feel those turbos spool back up, and it'll quickly pick up that speed to max revs. Despite even today we've got the door open here, so the engine's under the floor at the back there. Still very acceptable noise level in here. We can have a conversation without shouting at each other, and of course with the doors shut it's much quieter with all that noise outside. What you will notice with the fins, if I stick it into a turn, the boat stays very level. You don't get that typical sports cruiser banking over feel. Very sure-footed ride if you've got family and young ones on board. It just dials out the really responsive handling you get from the sports cruiser side. You can still turn it off and get that feel if you want, but for typical day-to-day cruising it's a lot more family friendly with the fins running. We'll just bring the boat back to a neutral position, and then we can demonstrate how the joystick system works. So we just slow down in small increments so that we don't flood the bathing platform in the back of the boat as that wash catches up with us. Right, so then over here on the starboard side, once we've got our throttles back into neutral, just engage our joystick here. So I've now got no need to use my engine and steering controls. Everything is now on my joystick, so if I pull it back in reverse, it's proportional. The more I pull it, the more power I've got, pushing it forward. It's giving me combined movement of both engines. We just turn this alarm off where we've drained all the water system down. The tank's now empty, so it just warns us when we come off the plane that the sender's rattling around. So if we want to go around in a circle now, if we twist the top, it's now engaging my engines, one ahead, one astern. It'll use the thrusters as well if it wants the extra assistance. See, it's a very clever system. And if I'm to push the top here over sideways, it's now actually engaging my thrusters. You can see, use that reference mark ahead, you can see the boat slowly coming across sideways. I say we're against the tide side on here at the moment, so it's really showing how powerful those thrusters are. And of course when we're ready to go, then as soon as we touch the throttles, it disengages that system, and we can go back to the classic way of driving, say one ahead, one astern, the boat immediately coming round on its own axis. So everything's very manoeuvrable. Our fin system, of course, being 0 speed, will work at anchor as well. So when we're stationary, whether you're sitting on the anchor or just rocking around waiting for say a lock or a fuel dock, dials out about 60% of the roll, which typically will stop most people from getting seasick. So we've been through our checklist. Say boat's just going through the final stages of prep before we ready her for onward shipping down to the Med. So everything out here at sea is now up to spec. We can sign that off and we'll head back in and tie her up alongside. So here we are back at Swanwick Marina, just preparing the boat to come in for berthing. So just power up our proportional bow and stern thrusters, just check they work. And as before, everything's just done nice and slow. So you see one ahead, one astern. We spin the boat round. And head down towards our berth. So we have a sails pool tucked down right at the end of the fairway here. Just keeps us out of the way with the stock, and obviously not moving our boats every day, so we can raft them all up together when we've got extra boats in. So just take a look up at the masts around us, just to get an idea of what the wind's doing. Where possible, we always try and use the wind and the tide to our advantage, just to make berthing that little bit more straightforward. So just taking everything nice and steady. So we're going to go in that far right hand corner you can see up ahead of us. Nice easy berth for us here today, so plenty of room. So just using my controls nice and gently. I can walk the boat round. Just keeping a good eye out around us to make sure nothing untoward suddenly come into shot. So these big four-bladed bronze props just allow us to walk the boat in. See how easy it is just with a simple click of the throttles. We can get the boat absolutely where we want, and Dan will just talk me back when he's ready. We'll just finish off into final position.
Okay, 2 meters. 1 meter. Okay.
And there we are, we've arrived. As I say, all very straightforward. It's nice to have all the extra gadgets here if you're not used to doing this every day, say with the joystick systems and the thrusters here. What we can now do, very clever system. So if I put this on a hold function, it's actually going to engage. I can engage my thrusters here now, and it's now pinning me on the pontoon with minimum control of the bow and stern thrusters. So I don't have to touch that now. I could actually get off the boat. I could get off the boat now and go and do my lines. And all we're doing now is Dan's just tying up the spring lines, which basically stop the boat going fore and aft. So there you have it. Say this, have a quick round just so you can see the accommodation. So we've got a lower galley here with a dinette. Of course, there's a full walk around video of this boat if you have a look online. With twin berth, bunk cabin there, double in the front, and its own bathroom there, and then of course a midships cabin down here. Lovely big centerline master cabin here with its own ensuite. So with those thrusters running, we can leave the helm, say the boat's complete control. So she's just holding herself in place. So that's all that's done. Signing off for the day. Hope you've enjoyed. Look around. See you soon.